The dawn of civilization. Primitive. Dangerous. Exciting. The handwriting is on the wall. If the human race is ever going to amount to anything, it needs
the most civilized caveman I have ever seen.
Look who's come out of his cave.
Hey everyone, this is James from GoldGrrl Music. You're here on the podcast with me today. Unfortunately, my co-host Brendan could not be here today, but that's okay because we do have a guest. She goes by the name GoldGrrl, based in Chicago, and she is a extremely talented singer, dancer, and content creator. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, thanks for the amazing intro. I'm so happy to be here.
Anytime. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about sort of what you do, what your music's about, and where you sort of come from?
Yeah, so I make metal music currently with the band Electric Mothership, but I'm also doing solo projects with Steve Gaiety of Blackmarket Democracy, and most recently did a track with Devin Clara for the Project Serval Initiative. That's probably my most complex track that I've ever been a part of, like crazy time signatures, and was really had to pull my sight reading skills out from the trenches, because that was really complex. But I make a mix of psych rock, crust punk, and just trying to go for melodic but still hard, so that like soft but rough kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm. And then you obviously have, at least from a dance perspective, some hip-hop influences there.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually artist in residence at Ragdale, really carving out a dance piece about my life growing up as a Panamanian American. I grew up doing folkloric dance from Panama, and so shout out to my Latinos out there. And grew up having to wear like full costumes, and these are like historical, almost 1800 style dress as like a 5-year-old.
Wow.
And I did that for many years, and then discovered hip hop when I was like 16 through the internet. But like this was like proto internet, there's no YouTube.
Yeah.
There's dial up. I'm still using, that was the dial up days. And got really involved with breakdancing and the street battle scene. And in that world, I have a different name, and that's my name there is Natural One. And
Okay.
I'm still known as Natural in the Vogue scene. I practice old way Vogue. And
Nice.
I'm not currently competing at the moment because I had a knee surgery earlier this year, but that's part of what I'm doing at my residency is just taking care of my body, stretching, going for walks, and then working on this piece out here.
Awesome. How's the knee healing?
It's it's getting there. So I'm like 6 months in on like a 1-year rehab process, and getting a lot stronger. I can like walk normally. Like if you like just met me, you wouldn't really think anything of it, but then I'll take a step too hard going down the stairs or something like that, and it's like oh feeling good though. It's getting a lot better.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
With the Panamanian stuff, does that tie in? Like, does it influence your modern stuff that you've done? Is the influences there, even if subtle?
Absolutely. One of my non-metal tracks, it's a house track, is based on a folkloric Panamanian song, and definitely have plans to include more of like the costume aspect. So wearing a headdress, or we have part of the Panamanian culture is a character called Diablo Sucio, which means dirty devil in Spanish, and it's a masked dance, and the masks are usually different kinds of animals, but they're like sort of caricatured to be sort of evil looking, like a devil, and trying to bring more of that into like visuals and music videos and stuff like that. Definitely.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. there's some of it so the full Take a Break Smoke a Fatty video isn't out, but there's a scene where we're at the Mad Hatter's tea party table, and there's like one of my devil masks there, and I just threw everything I could into that project. So yeah.
And that's the one where, if people want to sort of get a taste for it, there's a 32-second trailer on your
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
There's a trailer up on my GoldGrrl YouTube page, and then also on my Instagram.
And then on that YouTube channel as well, I did see that you had it's like a 40-minute video about Chicago street performing.
Yeah. So that was shot maybe like 10 years ago and didn't come out till like I don't know, maybe like last year we put that out or something. And so I'm coming out of this folkloric background, and I say that because I'm used to wearing it made me grow up used to wearing elaborate costumes in front of people.
Right.
And that's sort of what street performing is. And the name GoldGrrl comes out of that era.
Okay.
When I was street performing, I would don all gold. Some people call me Golden Lady, but that was my thing, was wearing gold. And I did that for like full time for like maybe like 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
just that was like that's a whole capsule of time in itself, just like the street people that I met in order to like learn the craft. Shout out to Chicago 10 Man. Taught me pretty much everything I knew. He's been street performing for going on 30 years, and
Wow.
he's definitely like a Chicago street icon where people will come here just to like see him on Michigan Avenue. And
10 Man as in painted silver, like pretending to
painted
be robotic type
silver.
thing.
Yeah.
Nice. It takes so much patience to do that.
Yeah, it does. It definitely will help form your character. Character building, I'll say, especially when it's getting cold. And I mean, the good money is during like the hardest weather times of the year. So like the best money is during Christmas, and then like July 4th weekend, Independence Day weekend, when it's like, Christmas, it's pretty cold, it's snowing, and we're out there holding these poses. And then July, it's like the opposite. It's like 100 degrees outside, and you just constantly have to take breaks so that you're hydrated and you don't fall off your box. And yeah.
If you had any like I guess if you spoke to someone who wanted to get into street performing, what would be like 1 or 2 of the top tips that you could give them?
Get your license, because you don't want to go through all the trouble of setting up and then have to move or avoid the cops or whatever. And in Chicago, particularly, there are boundaries of where you can. So like learn the map and get your license. And then for people who specifically want a human statue, it's not just spray paint. So be prepared to paint with paint. I used about 5 to 7 layers of interior latex paint.
Oh wow.
And then spray paint is like the final layer. But it'll start, it's just like, painting on canvas. So you prime whatever outfit you're going to use, you prime it. I usually use an alcohol water mix, and then I'll either use primer, or if I don't have primer, I'll just go with the latex paint. The hardest layer is the first layer, because the clothes will absorb a lot of that paint.
Okay.
But then after that, it's just like waiting for it to dry, and then, keep adding layers. And the goal is for the clothes to be able to support themselves. So like, you're done when you can just stand up your suit or dress or whatever you're doing, and it can just like stand up on its own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crusty.
So, yeah, a lot of people think you just spray paint clothes, and I just want to dispel that myth, because it actually like takes like a day to make a suit. Yeah.
Wow. So I wanted to talk music for a little bit. What kind of inspired you to get into making music? Where did that passion come from?
Well, dance and music have always been a part of my life. My mom is an actor dancer, and she's the one who got me involved in doing folklorico and performing, and then my dad was a trained opera singer and radio host, and just always, there's always singing and music and dance like in the house, or like, if my mom was having her girlfriends over, there'd be like salsa music playing, or like my dad would be like working on the car and there's like some soul R&B playing. So it's just always around me. And then when I came to Chicago and discovered house music, I was like, oh my God, I want to be a house singer. Like this is what I want to do. I want to be Crystal Waters. Like, and like just started. So I used to be obsessed with Craigslist. I used to find like random shit, the most random connections to Craigslist, and like one of them was a Native American house DJ who used to hang out at this music studio called Paragon Studios, and this was in Fulton Market. And I think it's now like it's not there anymore. That whole area has been changed. I think like Google is in there now, and it's really like super upscale. So at the time, it was just this like warehouse building, and they had a music studio in there, and I would just hang out, and that was like my in to like the industry in a way. But I didn't get into like singing. I didn't even know I could scream until like late. Like, I mean, I was probably like 24, 25 when I like found out I could act, like I could scream, and once I did it in front of people, I was like, oh, this is what I gotta do. This is what I gotta do. I thought I wanted to be a house singer, but actually I want to keep screaming.
I guess it's a little different to like standard singing. It's like it's like when's the situation when you accidentally find out you can scream really well,
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know if I was doing it well, but it was the fact that I did it. And so the first time I screamed was actually for a dance piece. And the choreographer wanted me to scream because in reaction to someone being shot, like as part of the piece. And this was like, the high pitched shrieking kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween kind of scream queen scream. And I did it in the Chicago Culture Center, which was really echoey, like the other room I was in. And so when I did the scream, I could like hear like bouncing off the walls, and everybody gasped, and I could like hear that too. And I was like, oh wow, like that was really cool. Okay. And then just like forgot about it. And then like a week later, I have been, so during this time I had also been singing in I did a lot of backup singing when I first started singing. So I was in I did backup for a soul artist named TJ Brown. And then excuse me. Then ended up singing with like a funk group called Baby Brother, and doing their backup vocals as well. And so the guitarist in that group wanted to make a punk song. And so like a week after I did that screaming for the dance piece, he asked me to scream for his punk song. So I was like, sure. I mean, I just screamed last week, so I can do it again. And then we performed that song. And I can't remember like what club it was. I don't really remember, but one of the people there was someone I did backup singing with for TJ Brown. And we hadn't spoken like in like 5 years at this point. But little did I know, she had started a metal band named Severed Tether.
Okay.
So like we both went from being like backup singers for like soul, R&B, funk kind of stuff. And then, yeah, so she her name is TG Nee, and she was in a band called Severed Tether, and saw me perform this punk song and was like, hey, do you want to audition for my metal band? Because I guess she didn't tell me this at the time, but she was leaving the band. So, so I was like, sure. I mean, I just screamed in this punk song. I was trying out for a metal band. And I remember the day because it was raining. It was raining so hard. I had like rain all the way up to my ankles. Going to this place called the Chocolate Factory on the west side of Chicago. And I auditioned, and they really weren't feeling me. And the only person who did like me was the guitarist, and the guitarist was like stick with me. And so eventually me and the guitarist made Azili, and then we had like a 5-6 year run as a metal band. And like through Azili, when I was in Azili, that's how I really learned how to scream, and like watch the Zen of Screaming DVD. And I mean, I also have a background in choir, so I knew about like vocal exercise and stuff like that, and sight reading. So it was really just taking those exercises and making them specific for screaming. And that's when I really started to like feel like, oh, okay, I'm in my element. Like, this is really what I want to do.
That's awesome. What a story.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of twists and turns that are unexpected there.
Yeah. And it's just like, you never know. And the people you meet, like where they're going to take you. And you also never know who's watching. So
Yeah, I've been saying this like for a long time. I think everyone should kind of like learn this, is that so much about the music industry is connections. And I think that there's people that will go to a show, perform, and then leave. And I think you're not doing yourself any favors, operating in that style, because it's when you stick around that you meet people from other bands after you perform. You meet people in the audience, and you never know who you meet that could change your career.
Right, especially if you're trying to tour, like those connections, that could be, you're opening for them in another city or vice versa. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and it just like it makes you look good to the scene when you support the scene. People remember that.
Yeah.
So, what about specific like musical inspiration or taste? Are there any artists in particular that kind of inspired your music that you've created over the years?
Definitely Straight Line Stitch. Alexis Brown is the lead singer of that band. And she was like the first Black woman I saw who was really screaming and like deep guttural screams, but then also had these very beautiful musical vocals. And so like her range is just insane. And then growing up, like I definitely had like a metal light experience. So definitely Flyleaf was huge for me, and Linkin Park and System of a Down. And then like in college, I started listening to like Devil Wears Prada, and it was like, but it was also just sort of on the horizon. Like I just sort of listened to it in my car driving. It wasn't like I was listening to it thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be a metal singer. Like I didn't even know I could scream until like way later. So.
Right.
But yeah, learning about Straight Line Stitch was definitely huge for me, because I just didn't really see any other like African American, Afro Latino lead singers. So lead female singers too.
One that comes to mind really from back in that period is Bad Brains.
Yeah, and I get that. I hear about Bad Brains a lot. Most recently I got into a band called Death. And but I think a lot of people need to know about Alexis Brown, because she's sort of she was out at the same time like Linkin Park was out and stuff.
Okay. I actually don't know her, so I'm gonna have to look it up after this.
Straight Line Stitch. And I can't think of her name now, but there was this other, it was like on the tip of my tongue. But she's married Yellow Wolf, the rapper. He was like more like pop rock kind of singer. But Fifi Dobson, there she is. Fifi Dobson was like so big for me. Also, like, yeah, as a young Black girl, I saw her and was like, oh, that's so cool. But at that time, I didn't really think, oh, that's what I want to do. I just like, oh, that's really cool that she does that. Like, yeah.
Do you see it as like, I guess, something that's changing in recent years, that there's more young, like African American women who are pursuing that path?
I do. I think Afropunk had a lot with at least raising awareness that there's even a scene out there. And it's gotten so much momentum these last few years. And then there's also another organization, Punk Black, that
Hmm.
is also on the rise. And so I think there's just more. I think the internet helped a lot of Black punks and Black metalheads meet each
Mhm.
other and group up together. And I mean, I think the scene is still pretty like spread out, but
Right.
we're getting to know each other like through the internet more for sure.
Yeah, I definitely see as well. Punk is I guess progressing faster in that space.
Hmm.
Punk's really become a space of diversity in the last few years.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it always has been sort of like for, but
Mhm.
recently it's really expanded that definition.
Yeah, and especially that like punks will, like fight Nazis and stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's amazing. I think yeah, the culture of punk is really supports racial equity
Hmm.
and bringing people together. So yeah.
Definitely. Um, as far as music venues go, are there any places in Chicago that you like to play that people should check out?
You know, I haven't gotten to play here in a while, but I would like to go back, and that's the Green Mill. I don't know if they survived the pandemic, but
Uh,
there was a group there. So the Green Mill did, but there was a group there called Paper Machete. And
okay,
the Green Mill itself is like a historic jazz bar.
okay.
But they brought my metal band in to play, and they bring like other punk bands and stuff in there, and the crowd loved it, you know. But it was crazy, like playing metal in this very like ornate historical jazz venue. But it's one of my favorite places to play in. It's pretty intimate, and it's just it's even if you just go to hang out, like it's a really cool just place to be in.
Awesome.
Hmm.
What about? I mean, okay, this is a topic that we talk about basically every podcast that people that come on, but I'm going to ask you a two-part question because I think you might have some interesting answers. What are some local places in Chicago that you like to eat at that people should check out if they're in the city?
Oh my, where haven't I eaten? Oh gosh. So the first place I'm thinking of is if you're into like late night diner kind of stuff, is Steak and Egger. That's right by me. That's off of like Cermak and Halsted. And that's just like good old, it's 3 in the morning and you just got back from the club and you want to eat like breakfast, lunch, or dinner. That's like my like one of my go-to spots. Um, and then I really like sweets, so like ice cream, and so La Michoacana is like a Chicago ice cream chain.
Nice.
And they have my favorite one to get is the Cookie Monster. It's like a blue ice cream, but it doesn't taste blue. I don't know what actual
Doesn't
flavor
taste
it
blue.
is. Yeah, no, like you know, you see like bubblegum ice cream or something, like you sort of like it's pink, so you're like, okay, it looks like bubblegum, but this is like blue, but it doesn't taste like how I imagine blue would taste like. I don't know. But yeah, and then like a mangonada. If you've never had a mangonada, yeah, try that. It's so the I don't know, Mexicans have this it's a spice called chamoy.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, so it's like mango and chamoy and it's like candy. They put like the candy on the straw and so, like
I'll just say I live in San Diego, so
oh, okay. So
yeah.
you know about that. Yeah, so
Oh yeah.
I highly recommend that. And yeah, there's like you just throw a rock and you'll find food. It just like depends on what you want. I mean, I've lived there long enough, so I'm sort of over deep dish and everything. I usually get flat
Uh,
pizzas, and but you know, you can't go wrong with going to Maxwell's for like hot dogs or burgers and stuff.
yeah, I've heard of that one actually. I think that's kind of
Hmm.
famous, right?
Yeah, that one's famously Chicagoan for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I've heard amazing things in general from people I know who've lived or visited Chicago. Basically, everyone who goes there says the food is fantastic. So,
It is. It's so good. It's so good. And it's like food from everywhere, like literally every part of the world.
mhm.
You know, like Ethiopian. There's this great spot that sells arepas. I think it's called Bien Me Sabe. That's downtown.
Mhm.
I think that's Venezuelan food. Just like you name it, they got it. Like, yeah.
The other part I wanted to ask you about, because you said you're Panamanian, obviously, is
Hmm.
what are some Panamanian dishes that people should try if they get the chance?
Well, I always get okay. A lot of the times, I don't really know any Panamanian restaurants. Like in Chicago, I think there was one, but I don't think it survived the pandemic. I normally eat empanadas, and that's like a meat turnover that's usually fried. But when I make it at home, I bake it.
Mhm.
And then Panamanian tamales are like a lot bigger than Mexican ones, and we wrap it in banana leaf and
Okay.
plantain leaf. And
Okay.
it's usually like one is like a full size meal. Like it's pretty big. But those are like my go-to Panamanian foods are tamales and empanadas. But Panama is really known for its seafood. So
Okay.
if you like seafood, it's like you can't go wrong. Everything's fresh and it's really good.
Nice.
Hmm.
I spent about how long was it? A week and a half in Costa Rica last year,
Oh,
and I was curious about how Panamanian food does their chicharrones. Is it because there's different styles? Like the Mexican style, I'm not the biggest fan of. It's more like a crackling pig skin, which is fine. But
yeah.
the Costa Rican style is like deep fried pork belly, and it's it's incredible.
Mm.
Um, what's the Panamanian way of doing it?
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really had chicharrones in Panama.
Oh, okay.
I eat like big ass seafood plates.
Nice. Nice.
They
Yes.
just like take a whole fish and fry that thing and throw it on the plate and it's perfect.
Yeah, I
And
think I ate my body weight in Costa Rica in fresh seafood. It was it was so good.
and
Uh,
and a thing that I think surprises a lot of people in about like tropical cuisine is that or at least in Panama anyway, we're big on soup. Soup is like a
uh-huh.
big thing.
Hmm.
Which considering how hot and humid it is,
Yeah,
it
it's I mean it's the
doesn't.
same it's the same in Southeast Asia as well. You look at Southeast Asia and so many different soup dishes, even though it's tropical weather as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I mean, yeah, soup in Panama is super good. It's like something like my grandma used to make. I remember
Okay.
that vividly. Mm-hmm.
Nice. My co-host who isn't here wanted me to ask you about like the content creation kind of side of things that you do, like all the videos and like stuff you put on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing that sort of thing for?
I mean, I would say I've been getting into it more consistently, like 2 years, like really not that long. Before then, it was just sort of like I was using it more to post my street performer content.
Sure.
But then as I started moving into music more, I've been curating it to be more of a music page. And I've been learning a lot about how to use my desktop instead of my phone for everything.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest thing with when it comes for me anyway when it comes to curating content because just working on this, the phone is such a small workspace and it's great for certain things, but at a point, if I've gotten to this point now where I'm not shooting stuff and posting it and shooting stuff and posting it. Like I'll
Hmm.
shoot it and it'll go on my hard drive and then I'll start editing it and then I'll have like 4 or 5 videos that I then schedule out versus what I used to do, which is sort of like shoot and post and shoot and post.
Uh-huh.
But there's like a whole other side to my content creation that is more like fetish related.
Okay.
And so out of my hip hop dancing, there's a style of dance called the robot. I'm sure you've seen people do the robot.
Uh-huh.
It comes from the funky robot from the 70s. And I'm going to shout out Demita Joe. She's one of like my huge dance inspirations. But someone saw me doing the robot, and little did I know, there's a whole fetish community attached to like dancing like a robot, acting like a robot, miming a
Really?
robot, doing robotic movements.
I did not know that.
And so I make content for that as well. Yes. And that actually like influenced how I started presenting my like GoldGrrl stuff, like my music stuff. Because it just got me into that mindset of like, oh, like this is how it's done. Like, like I don't know, it just changed my mindset of like how to approach presenting myself on social media. And so I started making these robot videos and people started buying them. And I was just like, oh, this is a thing. This is a community. I didn't
Wow.
know this.
Yeah, it's a niche. You found your niche.
I found a niche. And so it's like, and it's crazy because, you know, like I sing metal and then like I robot. And also like thinking about how I want to incorporate like my robot character into like a music video or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah, so definitely doing like the fetish content influenced how I present my music stuff now because it just put me in that mindset of, oh, this is a video. Like this isn't like just like my lifestyle blog where I'm just sort of like, hey, it's me, hi guys. Like I'm actually like making something.
Right. Interesting. I had no idea about that. That's fascinating.
It's neither did I. And then I got that message and I started doing my research and got involved in the internet forums and stuff. And then it just like, yeah. So.
How big is the following and community for that?
I mean, it's pretty small, but they're very loyal. It's sort of like metal,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, you know, once you have your following, it's like they're a very loyal group of people. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
I only had a couple more questions for you, but I did want to ask. You mentioned a couple of bands, obviously in your local area and artists and that sort of thing. But if people were to check out or look for some bands from Chicago that they should support or listen to, who do you think they should look for?
Well, definitely my girl Angel and her band Alenia. I got to give a shout out to them. Blackmarket Democracy. I'm currently working with Steve Gady from that band. I'm not sure if they're active, but I'm still going to shout them out. And the Breathing Light. We used to play with that when I was in Azili. We would play with Breathing Light. We were often on the same bill a lot of the time. And one last one is a Bussy Queen Power Trip. I freaking love them. Amazing, like, ball of energy. Brianna Tong is the lead singer of that band. And we did so I when I really got into screaming, I like won this grant to do scream workshops and like teach other people how to scream.
Cool.
And so I have this like background of like of teaching people as well. I did like some girls rock stuff and then Brianna approached me about teaching her, and I just thought that was like really cool. She was humble enough to just like come to me and be like, hey, let me learn some stuff from you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I would say those bands for sure. Check them out. Bussy Queen is really active. They're probably the most active of that group.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the tough question. I ask everyone this that comes on the show. If you were stranded on a desert island and all you had with you was a solar-powered Discman and 3 CDs that you had to listen to on repeat, you don't know how long until you got rescued, what would you want to have?
Definitely Fear Inoculum. That's like the first one that's coming to mind. My second one would definitely have to be, so in Panama, we have an African style of music called Congo. And I've been listening to it a lot out here. So I would just need a CD of Congo tracks. Let's see, Fear Inoculum, Congo track, and I don't have a good drum and bass album, but drum and bass is like liquid drum and bass is what I listen to on a daily basis. But I just like throw random shit. I'm just sort of like, hey, like the DJ that I follow is named like DJ Wildchild, but yeah, definitely those three. Yeah, like Fear Inoculum, some Panamanian Congo music, and then like a liquid drum and bass, some goodness like that.
Nice. Some good variety there. It's some people give like 3 of the exact same sounding music. I'm like, you're gonna be there forever. You want something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so all over the place. My musical tastes are all over the place too.
Well, you're pretty decisive because some people take a very long time to answer that question.
Mm. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I just know what I like, and I also like really like Survivor shows, so I feel like I'm prepared.
I
I've
do
been
too. Do
preparing
you
for this.
watch? Do you watch alone?
I only watch it. Oh no, I don't watch alone, but I do watch Naked and Afraid.
Oh, that one's great.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those shows are so good. I'm obsessed with
Yeah.
those shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually just picked up on something, and I might be guessing here, but you went into a lot of detail about the Scream from Halloween. So I want to know, are you a horror fan?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, I knew it because it's like, well, you really described that in detail,
Yeah. I mean, when I think of like a blood curdling scream, that's sort of like Jamie Lee Curtis. That's like the first thing I think of.
right? Yeah, it's like the classic.
Mhm.
What else? What do you watch? Like, what are your favorites?
For horror,
Mm-hmm.
well, what's I haven't seen the news. I definitely like, like torture stuff. So like Saw,
Uh-huh.
all of the like unique puzzles, or like I also on YouTube, there's this channel where they show you how you could get out of those situations. And so I think
Huh.
that's what I like about it is like, oh, like how could you get out of that or survive or like or what have you? Um I there's a long time too that I think foreign horror is super cool. I'm trying to think of like a
Yes.
really good like Japanese or Korean. Um the most recent thing that I've actually seen was The Bone Woman. I think it's called La Huesera,
Okay.
and that was Mexican horror. And I thought that was cool because like the climax in that movie was essentially a dance piece. And I
Interesting.
didn't expect that. And there's this style of dance called from Japan called Buto, and it
Okay.
means dance of darkness. And it was like essentially a Buto piece. And I was like, oh, that just like made me rethink what like a horror climax could be. Um,
I really like foreign horror as well because different cultures have different things that they find scary. So I think it's interesting to
right.
see like their take on what's scary because sometimes it translates and it's like, whoa, that is scary. And sometimes it doesn't, but you still find it fascinating.
Right. Yeah. And like Netflix has so much like not to promote Netflix, but it has like I've been seeing more foreign horror since just like it's just more available, readily available because I
Yeah.
really have to like look for it before like go on some like weird site or whatever.
Hmm.
And now I just think like with video subscription sites, it's like there's just way more access to foreign everything. And then
Do you use Shudder?
yeah, I just added Shutter. I just added Shutter. Like me and my best friend, we watch horror movies like pretty regularly.
Uh-huh.
Like at least like once or twice a week we're like,
Yeah,
oh,
me too.
let's go on like a horror movie or whatever. And so like now I'm trying to like think of like names and stuff and I'm like, oh my God, I've seen so many.
It kind of blurs
Um
together sometimes.
yeah, it's like on my watch right now. But the most recent one I saw was The Bone Woman and that was pretty good. Um I want to see the new Saw movie. I saw the Five Nights at Freddy's.
That was fun. That was a good movie.
Yeah. And yeah, I can't believe that they used the Jim Henson studio made those animatronics. I thought
So I've actually seen those in real life.
that no way.
Yeah.
How?
I went to Universal Studios Fright Nights, and they had Blumhouse, the studio.
Yeah, yeah.
They had like a display thing of Blumhouse props, and they had all of the robots from the movie in the room.
Oh,
And then they also had the doll from Megan, bunch of
yeah.
props from the new Exorcist movie, and a ton of other stuff. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I wait, have you seen the new Exorcist movie? Is that worth watching?
I I had really high expectations because the first Exorcist is one of my like top 10 movies ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll say the first half of the movie was like pretty good. I was like, oh, maybe they're going to pull it off, and then the second half really let me down. But I'm
Yeah.
really picky. Some people said they loved it. I don't know. I wasn't. Overall, I'd say it's like a 5 out of 10. Just
Yeah.
because. But I saw a movie last week that was like the first horror movie in years that made me like genuinely uncomfortable.
What was that?
called When Evil Lurks. It's in Spanish.
Oh, I've been seeing that in my like suggested movies.
If you like stuff that's like genuinely disturbing, it's worth watching. It's got like 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it's deserved.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, excited. I'm basically always watching stuff. I think one of my top ones are my top movie is Silence of the Lambs. That's probably like
Great movie.
the
Yeah,
one I
cool.
could rewatch, and it's like because I like true crime too, and that's sort of like both. It's like
Yeah, me too.
and
They
like a
kind of tie in
single.
together.
But I'm also like a big fan of just like gory, crazy stuff like Hatchet, the Hatchet
Uh-huh.
series. That's like insane. And anything that oh, there is this one called Nocebo. Have you seen that one?
Nocebo, like
It's
let's see,
with
Nocebo.
Philippine.
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's about a Filipina nanny who uh works at this woman's house, but there's like a whole backstory between them, and she's actually there to get revenge.
Okay.
And it's sort of like it's very like witchy and magical and stuff, but then also like disturbing.
Oh, it's got Eva Green in it.
Yeah, and it's like I like that one because it has some like social commentary, like about the relationship between workers and like people who work overseas who are making t-shirts and t-shirt factories, like that kind of thing, like really connecting that to like, oh, they're real people, and
Interesting.
that disconnect between the bosses and the people who run those places and the workers who actually do the work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said you love the Saw movies, and I think I heard you say you hadn't seen the new
I
one yet.
haven't seen the latest one. Yeah.
Okay, because friends of mine who were like really picky with horror, who said it's the best one since the first one.
Really? I mean, the trailer looked good, and then they had like no one under 17 or
Mm-hmm.
the maturity
Yeah,
range. I was like, ooh, okay.
yeah. A
Um,
couple of horror buffs I know have said it's really good. So
that's
if you
awesome.
like it, probably watch that one. I'm probably going to see it at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to check that out because the trailer was selling. The trailer was
Yeah, the
selling.
trailer looked good. I was like, oh, this actually could be good. But
Yeah,
also
yeah,
at the same time, I was like, isn't this like number 11? Do we need another one? But apparently, it's really good.
right. But they made it, and I guess have you seen the trailers for the new Thanksgiving movie?
No.
Yeah, I guess it's like a Thanksgiving dinner gone wrong or kind of thing, but that's like a newer movie coming out.
Okay.
Hmm.
Probably check that out. Cool. Well, we're coming up basically to time here. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to say, obviously, thank you for coming on the show and really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. But I also wanted to give you a chance to sort of tell people if they want to follow you, support you, listen to your music, any of that stuff, where should they do that?
Yeah, so you can definitely follow me on Bandcamp. That's where all of my latest releases are. Take a Break, Smoke a Fatty's on there, and also some tracks from Azili. And then the most up to date is my Instagram and then YouTube. If you like the longer form videos, that's where like the landscape format versions of the music videos go, is my YouTube page. So yeah, and you can find me at GoldGrrl Shy, CHI. That's my handle on everything.
Awesome.
You
Oh,
can
so
Google me. You can Google me.
and it's just for anyone who doesn't know, it's 2 R's, so it's Gold GRRL.
Yeah, for the Riot Girl.
Awesome. Well, it was great chatting to you, and thank you for taking the time. But everyone listening at home, tune in next week. We'll have another guest for you.